You know, a lot of things wouldn't make any sense if it weren't for love. Just take music, for example. Without love, the blues would be beige. Country music would only be about beer and trucks. Rock and roll would need more guitar solos. Rap would probably be the same. Without love, there would be no Whitney, Aretha, Dolly, Madonna, or Lady Gaga. There would be no Elvis, Elton, Eagles, Beatles, or Barry White. But let's face it, love is just love. It's a second-hand emotion until you put it over time. Then it does something amazing. Love over time accomplishes something so powerful, we often miss it. But before I tell you what love over time does, I want you to think about love for a minute. I personally think that love was God's idea. It's no wonder that love gets so much press. I mean, God is a pretty good innovator, and if he originated the brand, it's bound to be successful. It's actually a good thing he didn't copyright it, or there'd be a lot of people out of a job, right? The Bachelor would lose millions of viewers, no one would listen to Delilah, Hallmark would go bankrupt. But if you believe that love was God's original idea, then a lot of things make sense. For example, now maybe you can understand why a newborn is so dependent on a mother's touch, or why a child craves approval from a father, or why a teenager looks for belonging, or why two people will actually hold hands. We were created to love. That means the kids and teenagers around you were also designed to love and be loved. So you are in a unique position to demonstrate the incredible thing that love over time can do in the life of a kid. You'd think we'd understand by now the things that love over time can do. But it's easy to get so busy that we just forget. We forget to make love a priority. It's kind of like the Pharisees. You remember them, right? They were the religious leaders who believed in God. They actually spent a lot of time learning what they thought mattered to God. They worked hard at keeping the rules. They showed up at the temple consistently. They prayed longer and harder than anyone. They studied the scriptures relentlessly. But they were so busy doing important things that they missed the most important thing. They missed the thing that love over time can do. And maybe that's why Jesus reprioritized in a few sentences what matters most. He actually said it this way: the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your mind, soul, and strength. And there's a second part to the greatest commandment that's just as important as the first part. Love your neighbor as yourself. Let me paraphrase. Love matters. I'll even elaborate. Loving God matters. Loving yourself matters. Loving people matters. Actually, the great commandment makes several points at once about love. Loving God helps you love yourself. Loving God helps you love others. Loving yourself helps you love God. Loving yourself helps you love others. Loving others helps you love God. Loving others helps you love yourself. And all are true at the same time. What a genius idea. Of course it is. It came from the one who made you. And before you get too opinionated about an overemphasis on love, remember who said it. And just be careful that you don't minimize what Jesus maximized. So stay focused. That's why love over time happens to be the best strategy to help kids know they matter. When you love them consistently, when you show up in their life week after week to demonstrate to them that they're a priority to you, when you love them faithfully in spite of their performance or their behavior, love over time does something amazing. Love over time is the best way to give a child worth. And there's something else to consider. Maybe love matters more in the life of a kid than it does in the life of an adult. I want you to think about that for a few minutes. This past year, I had two friends both take their lives. One was 23, one was 48. The first grew up in a strange cult that pushed her into sex trafficking. The second grew up in a Christian home and wrestled with anorexia. They both shared a common dilemma. They didn't know how to love themselves. They were both smart, attractive, determined people who tried really hard at life, but something was broken when they were young that stacked the odds against them. And I'm not qualified to explain how or why. The point I want you to consider is this: kids need to learn to love themselves while they're kids. Kids desperately need adults who will love them in a way that will convince them that they are worth something when they're young. If kids don't feel loved when they're young, they may never love themselves in a healthy way. And if they never learn to love themselves, they may ultimately self-destruct. So the way you love kids while they're kids can dramatically affect their future. That's why we need more adults to step it up and play for keeps. It's time to get serious about loving the children around you. Most research even suggests the younger the recipient, the more powerful the impact. Think about it this way. Love is like investing. It gains shares. The sooner you start paying in, the greater the return will be later. The longer you wait, the less you earn. Simply put, deposits in someone's life as a child will earn more interest. When you wait until they're adults, the gains are just slower. My oldest daughter is an artist. When she was a child, she believed every flat surface was a canvas. That included every wall, every table, every book, every door, and every piece of paper. She used pencils, pens, markers, chalk, crayons, and paint to leave her mark everywhere. So there were constant reminders of her talent all around us, all the time. They were her priceless creations. But I have to be honest, it felt like her art was costing me a lot more than it was worth. I'm not sure I recognized the value of what was happening. If you had asked me then, I would have only priced it sentimentally. But slowly, over time, her art evolved from uninteresting smears and scratches to sophisticated, emotional, and intricate paintings. During the past years, people have actually paid her hundreds and thousands of dollars for what she creates. Her experience in life as a child and teenager has now begun paying off as an adult. When you start imagining the future of a child, you will start investing more in them now. If loving a child early begins to build a healthy sense of worth, rejecting a child early can do the opposite. According to the World Health Organization, research now shows that many challenges in adult society, mental health problems, obesity, heart disease, criminality, competence and literacy and numeracy, have their roots in early childhood. Basically, how we love kids as kids will affect how they live as adults. There's a brief window of time from birth through adolescence when what we do in someone's life can matter more than any other time. The time you spend every week with a child, playing, reading, talking, laughing, and loving, is just worth it. It's worth it because they're worth it. But again, you know that because you're older and wiser. So if you want kids to grow up and know they're worth it, then look for ways to prove love over time. Kids and teenagers need adults who will show up and be there consistently, patiently, regardless. They need adults who care enough to discover how they are wired and who they really are. They need someone in their life that will not bolt and run when things get messy, before they can ever know that love is more than just a second-hand emotion. Playing for keeps simply means you get serious about what you do with your time, and when you play for keeps, you put love over time. One of the best ways to do that is to simply prove it. How do you prove love? The same way God did, right? Have you ever stopped to think about the fact that the entire story of Scripture is about God pursuing a relationship with us over time? Regardless of our behavior and our mess, He kept showing up. Finally, He sent His Son to walk with us, to be physically present so we could touch and know Him. You prove love as parents and leaders in the same way. You simply decide to be physically and consistently present week after week. And remember, kids will test you to see if you really like being around them and with them. They probably won't believe you love them if you never like them enough to hang around them. Author and artist C. Joy Bell-C says it this way: they say you have to earn the right to be loved. No, love is unconditional. If you love someone, they don't have to earn it. But the right to tell someone that you love them, that has to be earned. You have to earn the right to be believed. So as parents and leaders, let's earn the right to be believed when it comes to love, if we're playing for keeps. And also keep this in the back of your mind. The window of time in their life as kids and teenagers is a critical opportunity for us to give them the sense of worth and value they will need to face life as adults. That's why I would argue that what you do for kids and teenagers is more important than what you do for even adults. If you're showing up in the life of a kid or teenager each week, then what you're doing is extremely important. So just remember, how you love them now will affect how they feel loved later.